Hi, I'm Brett Weber. I serve on the Grand Forks City Council and I'm the president of the city's Jobs Development Authority. I'm joined today by Mayor Brown, Jonathan Holt, who is the vice chair of the Jobs Development Authority with me, Keith Lund, the executive director of the Grand Forks Region Economic Development Corporation, and Blue Weber from Downtown Development Association, and Barry Wolford, president and CEO of the Grand Forks East Grand Forks Chamber of Commerce. While I understand that our toughest COVID days are still ahead of us, I'm as confident as ever that Grand Forks' best days lie in our future. We are a collaborative and resilient community. Grand Forks and the state of North Dakota have moved quickly in relation to COVID-19, and that's going to help us in the long run. Indeed, rich qualities inherent in communities of our size, likely changes in the Canadian dollar, and the reality that our city is on the verge of a building boom provide many reasons to be particularly optimistic about our future. Just a couple nights ago, the city approved a number of investments from local private concerns in our city's future. Of course, we first have to deal with this current COVID interruption. Fortunately, we have strong collaborative systems in place to bolster our resiliency, and Grand Forks has the ability to handle adversity and to recover quickly from difficult times. As we emerge from the current COVID crisis, Mayor Brown has already begun the development of a social and economic recovery plan. These listening sessions are one of the important steps in surviving the crisis and developing that long-term plan for our successful future. These sessions are meant to gather information from you, the business community. And in fact, they have already helped to shape policy shifts that have helped us through the economic crisis, which is a key part of this. Today, we're going to focus on providing a summary of the 5 sessions hosted by Barry Wolford in the Chamber over the last several days. Based on these sessions, we will share ideas with our state and federal partners as they have asked us to do. And together we will guide them as they develop and package resources to deal with the COVID-19 crisis. At the same time, we can't just wait for the state or the feds to come to our rescue. And with your help today, we're beginning to shape our local approach to economic recovery. In this rapidly changing dynamic environment, these sessions can't be about us providing answers to all of your questions. Instead, this is part of a series of sessions to learn more about your challenges and your best ideas for moving forward. So one of the things that we've been able to get with each of these sessions is some key ideas that we've taken to local government, and we've seen changes based upon those ideas. Here's how it's going to work today. We'll be utilizing the chat function as our main means of hearing from you. If you hover your cursor toward the bottom of the screen, you'll see that chat option pop up. That's where we'd ask you to please put in your questions, comments, concerns, policy suggestions you have, anything there. We will cover all of those today. Providing answers when we have them, collecting ideas and coming back to you in the future with answers as they become available. Additionally, the chat window allows us to retain a transcript of all the questions that have been asked. That way we won't miss anything and we'll have an opportunity to follow up and record your questions. Today, in addition to the panelists, we're joined by Brenda Bergman from Public Health, Eric Giltner, Senior Area Manager for the Grand Forks Office of the United States Small Business Administration, Dusty Hillebrand from Job Service, Tammy Peterson, Grand Forks Region President of Bremer Bank, and Amy Whitney from the Center of Innovation. With that, I'd like to hand things over to Mayor Brown. Mayor Brown?
Well, thank you. As you said, Brett, a community that has a recovery plan in place will recover quicker. So I think these sessions are very important to get us in the right mind, but also keeping the facts that now is not the time to relax. We hear people talking about getting together for Easter with families. That is the one thing we need to get the word out. You still need to stay in place, stay at home, keep your distance, cover your face. That's the new look. And we think it's important for the health of our community. So I'm starting to see more and more masks out in the community. I'm glad. And I think we need to get the word out. So these recovery sessions, these listening sessions are so important when it's time to recover. So I thank you for participating.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor, and thanks for joining us today. Rather than going through all of our regular panel members, I'd like to just get to our special guests. Especially, I'd like to start with Ms. Bergman from Public Health. These are folks who have been working overtime every day. And so, Brenda, if you would take a few minutes, and then as long as you're able to stay with us today, thanks for making the time. Brenda.
It's an honor to be here. It really is. I'm kind of speaking on behalf of Debbie Swanson, who is absolutely up to her ears on what she's working on right now. So it's an honor to be with you guys. And normally I'm an environmental health specialist for the department. And so normally I'm talking about restaurant inspections and any kind of complaints, nuisance complaints, swimming pool inspections, as my colleagues are dealing with, setting up septic tank systems and such, and tattoo facilities, but that has been put all in the back burner because right now, as you guys are well aware, our number one concern is what's going on with COVID-19. So our structure, the public health department, has now changed from its normal structure to incident command structure. And so it's kind of subdivided into different roles we have. So what we had before, it still exists, but just like I said, put on the back burner. And there are different teams, and one team I'm on right now is a contact tracing team. So for example, we have heard that there have been 11, if it has not changed today, 11 diagnosed cases of COVID-19 in Grand Forks County. And so of those 11 that we're tracking, it's not as though we hear a case and then just let it go. There are 34 people that we're tracking because they are household contacts or friends or such of the diagnosed cases. So it takes 8 or 9 of us as staff to be in contact with them and educating them to, remain home, pretty much what Mayor Brown was just saying, and that they were really going to be quarantined until further notice. So we're doing that. That's a contact tracing team is a big part of it. We also have logistics group being in preparation for if there's someone homeless, for example, if they need to be set up in a hotel, transportation for that individual, food that they need to eat during that quarantine time period. And then also sorry about that. I'm at home, as you can tell. Yep. We have, of course, our emergency preparedness team that works hand in hand with state in case the state in case we should have to set up any additional places for people to be put up at. And then we have our social media team that does a lot of communication through any types of social media, as you guys have maybe been keeping up with the public health page or Facebook page. So it's really, Chase, don't do that. I'm so sorry about that.
It's good. It's good.
This is the real world, isn't it?
It's all good. It's all good, Brenda.
It's the real world.
Kids running around. Yes.
Need to have a snack here. So, yeah, I think we were saying statewide there was 251 cases the last time I had seen. And then so, Ben, bring that. Take it out of here. Sorry about that. And there's 11 cases, but like I said, it's a lot more work than 11 cases. You don't make the diagnosis and say good luck with it, and they go. And I know many of you are very well aware of that. But I'm definitely up for any kind of questions if you guys have.
If it's all right, Brenda, I'd like to follow up with you right now, if I may. Grand Forks is fortunate in having what seems to me to just be top-notch, gold standard testing procedures and response times in place. And I don't think that has led to us having low numbers, but it can help us to flatten the curve, as is the term. Do you have any ideas of why we've had so few cases so far when our testing numbers have been quite high, but we've had relatively low positive cases? And what does it look like when someone does test positive? You kind of touched on it in terms of tracking their contacts, and what does that look like to help keep the community safe?
She's muted.
Oh, we need to.
Yeah, Brenda, there you go.
There we go. There, I'm unmuted. Okay. So I'm very sorry, I was playing around with that. So to answer your question, okay, so could you repeat that again? I'm very sorry. Messing around with unmuting.
It's probably an unfair question and maybe one that you don't even want to answer, but do you have some idea of why our numbers have been so low so far? And again, we have what I'm seeing as absolute top-notch gold standard testing procedures in our community with drive-up testing, very fast response times. So when someone does test positive, what does that look for the public health department in terms of tracking contacts and such?
Okay, so if someone were to test positive, our regional epidemiologist is notified right away. And in normal situations, he handles it from that point on. But since we are anticipating, we're at 11, as I was saying now, and that number could grow. But as we anticipated the number to have grown, we set up a team. And like I was saying, that contact tracing team. So our regional epidemiologist contacts us. We have regular meetings on how our procedure would be with that. And then he delegates each one of us. I'm one of the members of the contact tracing team. He delegates one of us to be following a specific family. It's usually one individual person, and then you gather data, and then you track ends up being the family and the close contacts of that family. So there are individuals.
Reach out to those contacts, and you're in touch with them. Is that what happens?
Yep. We're in touch with them. It's confidential, of course. We have contacts twice a day, just doing the basic data collection, through the North Dakota Department of Health, just getting any kind of symptoms that they're having and their temperatures at the time. And then notifying if any one of them are waiting to get a test result back if that test were to be positive. So we're in contact with our regional epidemiologist. And that's how the numbers, we accumulate those numbers that you're hearing. So when you were talking about why is Grand Forks, seems like the numbers are so much lower than others. I have no reason why. Maybe there are more people that are prone to stay home if they're having, this has just crossed my mind, that they're having mild symptoms, not enough that they need, they don't feel like they need medical attention. And they're just kind of staying home and have been educated well to lay low. Hopefully that's part of our public health team that does a lot of the social media and telling people to stay home, wash hands, keep your, the face masks now, keeping the distance from each other. Hopefully that's what is contributing to the success of our county.
Okay, very good. And these are meant to be business listening sessions, but as the mayor has pointed out, we're facing a flood crisis, a COVID crisis, and an economic crisis. Of course, the one that's on the front of our minds is the health crisis. So it's great to have you on here. I've been impressed by the level of testing and the nature of our testing. Drive-up testing is kind of a gold standard. In addition, I believe that Altru is also working on some teams to do some mobile testing. Is that correct also?
That's something I'm really unaware of at the time. I'm so focused on the cases I've been monitoring and other things too. So I really don't know much. Maybe someone affiliated with Altru would know more about that.
All right. Thanks again for being with us today, Brenda.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And then as this is a business listening session, as I noted earlier, this is meant to be a wrap up from the 5 sessions hosted by Mr. Wilford at the Chamber. But we're joined today by Eric Giltner, the Senior Area Manager for the U.S. Small Business Administration. Mr. Giltner, if you could let us know what's going on in your world these days.
Very good. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for letting me join today. We've been very busy at SBA. We basically have 3 different things going on. And so we're trying to make sure that everybody is learning about it and ready to go. And in quick summary, we have what is called an economic injury disaster loan program. And to speed things up, they created a new thing called an advance for that program. So every qualifying small business is eligible to get up to $10,000. And the way they've now interpreted that is that it's $1,000 per employee up to $10,000. And every day we hear that that might change a little bit. Now that portal was opened, a lot of people applied for it. We're just hearing now that some people are starting to get it. What causes some problems is that on the application, the online application, it says you're gonna get it within 3 days. And that's not happening. So, I've been getting a lot of people, where's my money? Where's my money? And, we're just asking people to be patient. It takes a long time. The second part is that once you get the advance, SBA is going to come back and make available a traditional long-term economic injury disaster loan available to you. This is to get you through for the long haul, depending on how big you are. You could get up to 30 years This is a loan, it's at 3.75%. The portion of the advance is expected to be forgiven. The third part of this program is I just put it on there, is the Paycheck Protection program. And I just put the website up there. And that is basically dollars that will go to a small business so they can then pay their workers that are out of work and unable to be there for them, okay? And so it's kind of hard to write a program that's going to be easily done. And so we're scrambling with that. The way that works is that businesses need to be able to prove this is my average payroll per month. They will get that average times 2 plus an additional 25% to cover rents, interest on mortgage, and utility expenses. That would be, you know, phones, cell phones, water, electric, and things like that. This money will be forgiven if the business owner does take those dollars and spend it on their employees and you know, hires their employees. They don't have to come back because if it's not safe or they're not open, the idea is that those employees have money in their pockets so they can continue. If they don't expend all of the funds they get, that then reverts to a 2-year loan at 1%, and the payments are delayed for 6 months, but interest will accrue. Now, there's a problem with a lot of information about the advanced portion of the economic injury loan portion and also the PPP. You can get both, but if you are forgiven on the $10,000, they're going to deduct that from your total PPP loan. Also, you can't use them to pay for the same thing. So if my rent is $1,000 a month and I get $2,000 with my PP or with my idle loan, I can't use that to pay my rent because that's being covered under something else.
No double dipping.
No double dipping. If your rent is more than $2,000 and that's all you got, well, you can apply it as long as you can prove that when you go back to your lender to get that forgiveness, that you can prove that the dollars went different places.
Very good. SBA is always an important part of our local business community, but suddenly you find yourself in the spotlight in ways that maybe you're not used to. How have the systems been in terms of accommodating the call load, et cetera?
It's been tough. And I'll admit that when we first put up the initial economic injury disaster loan, our traditional portal that SBA had crashed and burned. And so one of the things I want to let people know that if you were able to get in on the first wave and you uploaded documents and you were accepted, unfortunately that crashed and you didn't get it. They put up a different portal where you didn't have to upload information. You just entered data right there on the portal, submitted it. If you did that and you got a note that said, here's your application number, you're in the system, you're okay. And so what we're looking at is just to make sure that you are in the system. Is taking a while to go through. With the Paycheck Protection program, we're sending people to their lenders to do that. And we're actually experiencing having a lot of lenders scramble to get to become an SBA approved lender. And that's where we're having a lot of problems.
Brenda mentioned some populations that are hard to reach. For the SBA, that's also the case. We have 1- and 2-person operations, private contractors, for instance, who may not be online. What do you recommend for folks who don't have ready access to the internet?
Well, we're trying to get the word out. All they need is to go somewhere where they can get a connection. And I know that the libraries are closed and things like that. So if anybody has a problem, just I'm telling them to contact us. Somehow contact us. We're in the phone book. I know my number is 746-5160, 701-746-5160. And so we're trying to do everything we can. I have not run across somebody who doesn't have access. Just one person who says she doesn't know how to use a computer, but she has one. She said her nephew was going to help her.
Okay. We have Adam Kurtz from the Herald asking, the application can be found at sba.gov. People would then print it out and take it to their lender. That's the process that you're suggesting?
That is correct. It is on the website that I've got in the chat there, and they will download it and bring it to them. I would rather not have you go to the Treasury because there was different documents. They're very similar.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Eric. And thanks for making the time to be with us today. I know you were already an important part of the chamber session, so thanks for doing double duty here.
You bet.
And Dusty Hillebrand from Job Service. Dusty, you were with us last week. Man, did we pepper you with questions last week. It was a really hot topic, but such a changing dynamic environment. What do you have for us this week, sir?
There is changes from last week. Everybody who had a waiting week that had back pay coming from that received it this week. I believe Monday that was sent out. We're still programming the $600. We have a lot of questions on the $600. When are we going to get my $600? That's still in the programming phase right now, getting that into the system. Over the weekend, we opened up the pandemic unemployment assistance for folks that are self-employed, so 1099 workers, business owners who haven't paid into unemployment for themselves over the years. Also folks who are not eligible for the just regular unemployment. So they might not have enough wages within the base period. They can use the pandemic unemployment, or PUA, to file that way. Right now, when folks use that, and also it's the same for the PEUC. I can't remember what the actual acronym is for, but that's for the folks who have run out of their benefit for the year. They've used up their weeks. They can reapply for 13 additional weeks on top of what they've already used. They would go through that. Both of those, when folks go in and apply for those, the application is, right now it's being put into a queue, and that queue will be, the different applications will be uploaded manually into our system, because we're still waiting on some clarification and guidance from the Department of Labor on exactly how we need to do this. But as soon as it's uploaded, as soon as we get that, we can start uploading this, and it'll go into the system.
And I know that your office is handling a caseload that dwarfs all of last year's caseload. How are you doing with bandwidth there?
There's a lot. Like if you listen to the governor, we've done 2 years of claims in about 3 weeks. So the phones are hopping. It's been very busy. But you know, we're here, we're working, we're trying to help out as much as we can. We've got some interesting phone calls, let's put it that way. With, you know, people are getting frustrated, and we totally understand that. You know, the system is what the system is, unfortunately. So we're doing our best here at the local level, and what the folks up in Bismarck are doing. So, you know, the wait times have been extended, but it's been, you know, we're trying as best as we possibly can.
Like everything else, things are changing very rapidly, but can you give us a rough idea of what our local numbers are looking like at this time?
You know, quite honestly, I don't have it. Tomorrow morning at about 9 o'clock on our dashboard on ndlmi.com, it will, there's a dashboard that we have up on there now that has local claims. And so you can actually go to Grand Forks County and click on that. It's a week behind. So as of March 28th, I think we're just over a little over 1,000 for the Grand Forks County. And obviously that's going to be much higher,
Right.
you know,
Right.
from last week. And then we'll be interested to see what happens with the numbers this
So
week.
the numbers we get tomorrow will be accurate as of last week?
Yes.
Very good.
Yep.
All right. And again, thanks for being with us. I suspect that we might have some more questions for you again very soon, Dustin. One thing I'm experiencing right now is the dark side of Zoom that I've been reading about in Clickbait. Jamie, I don't know if you can clear that chat and people can put their contact information back up if that's something that you're able to do. In the meantime, Tammy Peterson, Grand Forks Region President from Bremer Bank. Ms. Peterson, thanks for taking the time to be with us here. One of the things that we've heard from the state and feds is for business people to start with their local lender. What can you tell us about what life has been like for our local lending institutions?
Thanks, Brett. You know, I would say the local lending institutions are really busy, just like everybody else out there right now. I agree, start with your local lender, and each relationship is different and each situation is different. So we need to talk through those individually. Just like Eric from the SBA referenced, there's the EIDL and then there's the PPP. The PPP is facilitated through the banks, but we help the borrowers kind of navigate through that to see which one makes sense. If you have payroll to expend, as we know, the PPP really is for that process. And if you don't, EIDL might be a better option for you. I can tell you right now, just to expand on what Eric said, when you are looking to apply, yes, the application is out on the SBA website. I'd also probably start first before you fill that out and contact your local lender, because each financial institution probably is approaching it a little differently. For example, at our institution, we're using a fillable format online with the hopes to actually do e-signatures at the end. Now, if you submit it not that way, we'll work with you to get it that way. But we're trying to streamline the process as much as we can to make it easier for the borrower. And kudos to the SBA for launching this like within 7 days with guidance. I think a lot of banks and a lot of businesses have questions, but that's going to happen when it comes quickly. And we're navigating through those. So I'm happy to report, though, we've seen significant volumes, reached out to significant people. We processed significant applications. We're receiving SBA numbers. So although the portal was down for a while, we have numerous SBA numbers, and there's funding already out in our community available. So we have funded loans. So similar to other institutions, I think they're in the same place. Again, want to remind everybody, so it's open to our business owners right now. If you are self-employed or that independent contractor, that opens up for applications starting Friday. With that, I just open it up. Any questions, Brett, or?
Well, that's rich information. So while the whole process starts at the SBA, your advice is to start with your local lender, that they can access that and they'll be approaching it individually. So they can go to Eric at the SBA for questions, but coming to their local banker, someone that they probably already have a relationship with, is an important place to start.
Yeah, I think it could simplify it and make it, it could be a quicker process just so you're getting what you need. And I really want to put out there, it is not difficult to apply for the PPP loan. There's a 2-page application for the borrower. From there, we need some payroll processing type information. If you have it through the government, some of those forms. And we also, a lot of the institutions have a calculator to help you calculate the forgiveness aspect to see if this makes sense for you. From there, that's really all we need. Unless you're a new business to us, we have to do some documentation on the entity. But I'm just recommending you check with your existing bank first and see if they are processing these, and check in with them. We've had some turned around within a matter of a couple of days, which is amazing. So.
Oh my, that is amazing, isn't it? And for those independent contractors, small shops, that portal opens up this Friday?
Correct. Eric, correct me if I'm wrong on that, but
Eric, is that correct?
Unmuted.
There we go.
Okay. You know, that's something that has been communicated to the lenders, but not to me here. So I've never seen that in writing.
Okay, yep. So Friday would be that date.
All right.
But you can contact your lender now if you want. I mean, it's always good to prepare in advance and talk through things. So
Very good. And Tammy, banks are very, very busy right now, and I know how very active you are out in our community all the time. So thanks for making the time to be with us today.
you as well. Thanks.
And with that, Amy Whitney from the Center for Innovation, always there to help new businesses, existing businesses. Amy, what do you have for us today?
Yeah, thanks, Brett. I think the biggest thing that I have today is just to remind people that even though we're in this very unique and interesting time in handling the COVID crisis, that sometimes situations like this can actually create very interesting entrepreneurial opportunities, and that entrepreneurship and starting new businesses and creating new opportunities is actually something that can help us, as Brett, and the mayor referenced earlier, help us be a stronger Grand Forks as we continue to move through this. And I think that's a big key takeaway, is that even though this may seem like a difficult and challenging times, that entrepreneurial thinking and entrepreneurial activity is still something that is at the heart of what I'm seeing and I continue to see in Grand Forks, and know that at the Center for Innovation, that's what we are here to help entrepreneurs do. We are a business incubator, and really it's our goal to help anyone who has entrepreneurial ideas to think through what are those resources that they need, where can they get those resources here, and how can we connect you to those resources. So, at the center, while many of us are working remotely, we are still open for business, and we can do everything that we do physically in person, face-to-face, we can still do that remotely. So please know that the center is here as a resource to any entrepreneur in the Grand Forks community. And we can help problem solve through, who might your customers be? What kind of opportunities are there for funding resources right now? Because interestingly enough, there are some opportunities for funding opportunities, and thinking differently and creatively about how can you get something off the ground, or who you might be able to partner with. So I think a big takeaway is knowing that entrepreneurship is something that happens even in crazy times like we're all experiencing right now. And that I believe entrepreneurial activity is going to be one of those things that we will see rise as part of the great ecosystem here in Grand Forks. And we look forward to being a part of that support system for everyone here in Grand Forks.
Wonderful. Thanks for joining us today, Amy. Historically, we know that crises of this sort are going to affect every community, and a few unique communities will emerge as tomorrow's leaders. And having survived the flood of '97 and developed the collaborative processes that we have, position us well to be one of those that really comes out ahead. I want to go to Barry Wilford and get a summary of what happened in those 5 sessions, but quickly, if I may, Blue from the DDA had a question for Dusty.
Yeah, Dusty, it was just some questions that I've been getting from so many of our small businesses regarding the $600, and they're questions that kind of we've been repeated asking, and it's tough because they're hard to just find the specific answers to. But the $600 that comes, that's going to be coming down the pipeline, is that something that they need to additionally apply for, or is that something that's just included in unemployment benefits? As well as, is that $600 eligible for people who have to be in a certain range, or is it eligible for anybody who's filing for unemployment?
Both good questions. You do not have to apply separately for it. It will be added to the weekly check. In fact, we've had a bunch of folks that have applied through the PUA, and that's just backing up the system even more. So if you're talking to folks, just please tell them the $600 will come. Blue, your other question, could you repeat that, please?
The other question was, as far as that $600, is there a certain threshold that you need to be within to get that, or is it anybody who's unemployed people who are coming from being 1099 contract workers over to unemployment, are they eligible for that as well? Or are there any stipulations around that 600?
Yep, nope, another good question. So from my understanding, again, not a UI expert by any means, anybody who applies for UI is eligible for the $600.
Okay.
Now, if you make over your weekly benefit, so your weekly benefit is, let's just say it's $100. You can make up to 60% of your weekly benefit. So that's $160 that you can make every week, or you can make plus the $600 on top of that. But if you go over that $100 for that week, you're not going to qualify because you're not getting the benefit. You're not going to qualify that week for the $600, from my understanding of how it works. So I know we've gotten that question where, folks are really close to being at that, their hours have been cut and they're maybe over what their weekly benefit is, even with their hours cut. And so therefore they're not going to receive that $600. And it's not anything that the employer is doing to be malicious or anything like that. It's just the way the system works out.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you have employees that might be within that threshold, talk to them and see. We've also been asked the question, well, hey, we've got folks that are going to be making way more on unemployment than they would be working with us or working. So what's going to happen there? Whenever anybody files for unemployment, a letter is sent out to the employer saying you had an employee who filed for unemployment. When the business goes back to work, so let's say magically everything opens up next week, and those businesses extend an invitation for that employee to come back to work, they say, no, I'm making more on unemployment. The employer needs to let unemployment know that, hey, we've extended an opportunity back to these employees. They've said they've turned down the work and their benefits will stop. So it's not a catch, it's just the way the system's supposed to work any time of the year, not just now, not just because of $600, but anytime.
Okay.
Even if that individual is choosing not to work because they feel at some health risk?
That's a good question. I don't have a good answer for that one, Brett. Sure, you had to throw that one in there.
Going back to health issues and business, Brenda, if you're still with us, we've had a lot of changes in the way we're doing business here in town. Recommendations on how various businesses can best facilitate physical distancing, and maybe some discussion of wearing a mask. Is Brenda still with us?
I'm still with you. Yep.
Yeah.
I know the mask topic has come up a lot amongst questions coming into our health department, and it's
the mayor has his on there, I see. Yes.
Yep. And that's of course recommended. So a lot of larger businesses have been good about providing direct rules and regulations of distancing amongst staff members, larger facilities. They have been doing that. We haven't run into any major issues with that, especially amongst any specific situations we've run into. So businesses have been, to the best of my knowledge, very cooperative with that.
And when the mayor is wearing a mask, does that mean that he's trying to protect himself from other people? Can you tell us about the mask wearing, if people haven't heard about it all?
Yep, mask wearing. So we base a lot of everything, what we get information we get from North Dakota Department of Health. The North Dakota Department of Health is suggesting for anyone to be wearing a mask just to decrease the likelihood of them spreading it from themselves, even if they're not even aware that they're a carrier. They may be a positive case and they don't know, and from spreading it to anyone in the community, because we know that when we hear about the 6 foot distance, we know that just a cough, a sneeze can carry quite a bit with that. So that's why it's increased interest in people wearing the masks.
So when I wear a mask into the hardware store to pick up a sump pump, like I did this morning, I'm not saying I'm afraid of you. I'm saying I'm wearing this mask to protect everyone around me because I don't know if I have it or not.
That's correct.
I do have a question for Brenda real quick.
Yes, please.
Are there any conversations around a timeline for some of the social distancing locally? And so being able to eventually kind of open up our doors to at least being back to 5 people, is that something that's being talked about locally?
There have been a few questions coming in. I'm getting emails from local pools saying if they should schedule swimming pool lessons for June. We have no idea. We don't have a forecast. We just kind of follow the reins of the North Dakota Department of Health. So we just have to kind of wait and wait. It's hard, but we have to wait patiently.
No, that's a perfect answer. And sorry for asking the weird questions that sometimes are a lot bigger than any of us can singularly answer.
When you wish there was an answer.
Yeah. We've been well served by having a physician as mayor, and now it's even greater value add. Mayor Brown, any comments about any of that we've just been discussing?
I think it's important we remain vigilant, and I think there's a social norm. And I went to LM Meats because I was running seriously low on olive loaf, so I had to get out. And I wore my mask. Every employee in the place was wearing a mask, and we had this proper distancing. I think that'll soon become the norm, and people will be comfortable with that. Right now, you feel awkward wearing a mask. No, that's going to be the new norm as we need to get through this together. And like I said, for the Easter coming up, people need to not do family gatherings, connect on the social media, because you don't want your next family gathering to be a funeral.
Very good. Thank you, Mayor. We had some additional questions about SBA loans. Eric has provided some information that Congress is currently considering. I believe it was $350 billion in the CARES Act was for small business. They're looking for an additional $250 billion. And Tammy, you had some information. Would you jump on and share us with what you learned in your call today?
The Bank of North Dakota hosted a call today, and on that call, Senator Hoeven was there, and he alluded to this as well. So right now, the funding is approved at $349 billion for the Paycheck Protection Program, and he said they're working to get that approved to increase to $600 billion. I think Eric stated right now SBA is approved over $100 billion, so that kind of shows you where we're at in the state of this program. Of course, everybody should be aware it is a first come, first served basis, but at the same time, people need to, it looks like there may possibly be more funding.
And are those first come, first served just nationally, or are each state, is each state delegated a certain portion?
It's my understanding, Brett, that this is a national program, so it's first come, first served basis based on when you apply to that E-Tran portal, that when the lender applies to that and gets that SBA number, that's when we have our allocation. So as far as I'm aware, it's not state by state, it's on the national basis.
Although
so
one of the great
benefits to get as much as we can back here in Grand Forks.
Yes, and one of the great benefits of a community our size, I go to the bank and I get to talk to Tammy right away. A lot of larger cities, I might have to wait in line for a day or 4 or 5. So again, may not be designated state by state, but our ability to be flexible and nimble here, very responsive to these kinds of things, position us well for a recovery, I'd say. Eric, were you trying to add something in there as well?
Yes, I do want to say that one of our challenges here in North Dakota, it sounds like, there's only 100 billion used up, but one of our challenges is that being an, mostly agricultural state, a lot of our lenders aren't SBA lenders. And if they are, prior to this, we had a rule where you got onto this E-Tran is what she mentioned. And if you don't use it or renew it within 6 months, you were locked out. So we're finding that a lot of our lenders, even though they might have been on SBA lending, they were locked out. And we're having a logjam trying to get everybody back in. So we're doing that, we're getting it done. But I do know there's a lot of lenders in North Dakota that are sitting with stacks of these things that once they can get onto E-Tran, they're gonna push them through. So those numbers are gonna go fast, I bet.
And $100 billion has been approved. That doesn't mean $100 billion has been dispersed yet. Is that right?
Right. It has, I don't have any idea how much has been dispersed. I was surprised to hear that Tammy said that they did one.
So at this point, we've had businesses close, and many people have seen their incomes drastically reduced, but we're hoping that that money starts to flow into communities like ours over the next week or a couple weeks.
Exactly. We are, very concerned with making sure that not only are we providing some support for our businesses so they can recover and make a recovery plan to get out of this, but also to make sure their employees are able to pay their bills and to get by for this time. And I will say that not this Thursday, but a week from this Thursday, SBA is going to be offering a webinar on how to create a recovery plan for this COVID-19 pandemic. So we're going to cover some basics.
For individual businesses?
Right, for individual businesses.
We'll be watching that very closely. I know the mayor will be watching that with his team as well. One of my hopes for today, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just wanted to make one more comment too. If there's anybody on there that has existing 7A SBA or guarantees that you're a business, or you did a 504 loan and you have money through the CDC and debenture, just so everybody's aware, if you're current on that, to contact your local bank. The bank should be working on it, but SBA also approved deferrals of up to 6 months of principal and interest payments. So as they're kind of figuring out their whole situation and their picture, that for some of our small businesses who have SBA guaranteed loans is pretty big. So just FYI on that.
And Tammy, would that include local mom and pop landlords who might have a mortgage on a property, their renter isn't able to pay? So would they need to go through that process, or would they just have a discussion directly with their banker?
They need to talk to their banker. Typically, an SBA 7A guaranteed program is for an operating business, not necessarily a real estate holder, unless you are one and the same and have two entities. So a lot of your real estate, people who own office space or different space like that weren't necessarily eligible for those programs. So it'd be more of that mom and pop operation potentially has the SBA loan that would be eligible for the deferral.
And so if there is a small scale property owner, residential, commercial, and their renters are not able to pay rent right now, any advice for those landlords?
What I would suggest is talk to your local banks, and not a lot of the local institutions are looking at potential deferments of payments and working with you. At this point, I am not aware of any programs available to that type of situation. So it's really a case-by-case basis and working and communicating during this period. But yeah, a lot of banks will grant some type of deferment on that.
Very good. Thank you again. And Barry, Mr. Wilford from the Chamber, I believe that you are now with us. There were some security problems we ran into. If you might just close things out with a quick wrap up.
Yeah, Chamber Nation, Mark.
While we're waiting for Barry, if local business people, one of the things we're really hoping for today is to hear from you in terms of policy recommendations. These sessions, every week that we've had these sessions, city government has considered them, and the result has been shifts in policy that I believe have been directly beneficial. So give us your ideas in the chat box there. Yes, Eric, go ahead.
Am I still on? The question of rental properties came up, and I'm looking at the screenshot from the EIDL loan, and there is a section on there where it says rental properties, residential and commercial only, lost rents due to the disaster.
Great.
So there is some EIDL relief for that as well.
So small-time landlords can apply for that as well, is what you're telling us.
It says residential and commercial. So yeah, I've never had anybody ask me from that angle, but I'm looking at the screenshot right now.
Yeah. All right. Wonderful information. So we'll just go back through in our remaining minutes here. Ms. Bergman, anything closing from the Public Health Department?
No, the main messages are clearly stated, and that's always just trying to keep as much distance, using the masks as we talked about over and over again. Feel like we're beating a dead horse, but that's okay. Limited the amount of trips you have to go out. If you do any type of ordering from local facilities, just do curbside pickup, drive-throughs. They should be absolutely safe to use if they're following through those guidelines. Other than that, those are the main messages always from the health department.
Very good. This is a really strange question. We've all been told, we've all heard, stay 6 feet away. It seems that people have different ideas of what 6 feet is. Any guidelines for people on how to determine 6 feet away?
No, I have no guidelines for that. I know one thing they're saying for that's fairly new news that we heard from the Department of Health, North Dakota Department of Health, was if you are with someone who is a potential carrier or someone has been quarantined, that they should be staying more like a 10-foot distance, of course, because of the sneezing and coughing, as we've heard of before too. So that's even more of a distance. So keeping as much distance as possible.
Okay, and here in the land of Fighting Hawks hockey, 2 hockey sticks away should take care of it. Is that right, Mayor?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Extend your arm with your hockey stick.
And Eric, anything additional that you'd like to say in closing today?
I think we're good. There is one thing. There's some misinformation out there that the PPP and is available for farmers and ranchers. And to date, it is not, even though we've had some media and some farm organizations say they interpreted, and yes, they are there. So not yet. They're looking at it. We haven't had a definitive answer, but as of right now, it's no.
So the CARES Act does not currently cover any relief for our farm community, our ag industry.
Not through our SBA PPP program.
All right. We'll be tracking that as well. Thanks for that note. And Blue from the DDA, anything in closing?
Yeah, I will kind of reiterate what a lot of people have said already. You know, staying safe and staying home is staying safe. But make sure that you're also still supporting. The way that we have seen some of these businesses not having to have their employees file for unemployment is the nimbleness of local government to kind of create some new regulations that help them. And so by being able to order drinks or food from one of these establishments, you're actually enabling them to restart some of that workforce as well. And so it may feel like $20 to spend a week on taking out is not going to help anything, but it really does. And that really does help not just the bottom line of that business, but our entire economy. So to stay support local is kind of an understatement. Really, really, really mean it. Really help those businesses by doing that. So
always important, particularly important right now. Thanks, Blue. And we've not heard from Keith Lund. Keith, do you have something? I know that you're out there in meetings every day, gathering more and more information about all these matters.
No, I really appreciate the guests, I guess, that we're providing information. You know, these listening sessions are important. I think we're transitioning a little bit from listening to people looking for more information about how they can process loans and tips on how to do that more efficiently. So Eric and Tammy and folks from the health department, I really appreciate the participation. You know, the state of North Dakota continues to have similar sessions every Thursday at 11 o'clock. Hosted by the North Dakota Chamber. So for folks who want more information, I encourage you to tune in to those. So you can just go to ndchamber.com. Also, the North Dakota Department of Commerce has a business survey out across the state for all businesses. We're told that, you know, that's going to be used as a basis to determine any kind of a local or a state response to fill gaps that aren't addressed by the federal response, CARES and SBA programming and that sort of thing. So I encourage businesses to participate in those surveys. I know the time is tight and there's a lot to do, but I think that could be very beneficial long term. And we're told that we'll be able to get that information with granularity to the Grand Forks region too. So that may be very helpful locally as well. So thanks for your leadership in hosting these calls, Brett.
All right, thank you, Keith. Final thank you to Brenda Bergman from Public Health, Eric Giltner, SBA, Dusty from Job Service, Tammy Peterson from Bremer Bank, and Amy Whitney from the Center for Innovation. And finally, Mayor Brown, thank you for your time and for your support of these listening sessions. With that, Mayor, yes.
Well,
something.
you know, COVID-19 has dealt a life-threatening blow to our small business community. And these sessions give nuts and bolts solutions to how to keep our businesses active, because Louis Pasteur said, fortune favors the prepared mind, while recovery is going to favor the prepared community. And this puts us in a great place for that. So I want to thank everyone for their participation and their sharing of knowledge. And we need to get through that. We will get through this together and we'll emerge stronger.
Very good. Thank you, sir. And I would like to give everybody a couple minutes before heading over to the governor's daily press conference. So thanks, everyone. Thanks for your time and good to see you. Stay well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.